Hermitcraft. Whether you keep up with it or not, if you're a Minecraft player, you're probably at least somewhat familiar with this incredible survival multiplayer server. Today, we will meander through the Hermit's incredible Season 8 builds, and I will use my minimal experience as an architecture student to do some very brief architectural analysis of what we find. Much like the Titanic, I will just be scratching the tip of the iceberg, so I'm expecting your comments and questions to flood in down below, dooming us all to an excruciatingly long and painful architectural discussion. An unfamiliar landscape, alien even, giant mechanical insectoids loom in the distance. Biomimicry is a common technique employed by both architects and engineers to create better buildings and machines by using nature as precedent. The natural world itself has developed some incredibly elegant solutions to problems that we humans tend to overcomplicate. Intricately detailed patterns, robust structural systems, groundbreaking materials, these are all some things that we can innovate upon by taking inspiration from nature. A symbol projected into the night sky, one we recognize without much thought. Architecture often employs symbols and signs to convey meaning. From bathroom signs to exit signs, iconography can be an important supplement to architecture. For instance, what message is sent by two giant deer sculptures? First of all, the unexpected scale makes us, the occupants, feel small, even insignificant. Their placement along the entry sequence both humbles us and prepares us to find something magical as we make our way into the towers that they guard. In the distance, a small village on a hill, adorned with vibrant red rooftops, catches our eye. Medieval villages such as these were often built on the tops of hills as a defensive strategy. As you can see here, a single narrow bridge acts as an easily defensible entry point against whatever dark magic lurks in the forest beyond. Did you guys see something weird in the distance there? Architecture is inherently tied to site. Buildings are very rarely built on a perfectly flat plane, and in extreme cases, a steep hill might entirely change our concept of what a building should be. Sometimes a building might be excavated from a hill rather than being built atop it. In this particular case, interior and exterior spaces are blended together to create something truly unique. There's also some inherent beauty and intrigue to a project which ever remains unfinished, trapped in the conceptual phase. The Sagrada Familia, the famous cathedral by Gaudí in Barcelona, has been in a constant state of construction for nearly a century and a half. We see a large circular hole in the bay, something reminiscent of a plug hole typically used to keep a reservoir from overflowing. But we see that this one is occupiable. This is one of the most ordered constructions we've seen so far, with rotational symmetry created by the intersection of two major axes. This kind of circular layout can also be thought of as centralized, as it creates an incredible moment of importance in the center around which everything else takes place. The pointed arches and vaulted ceilings might also push us to see the structure as an abstract interpretation of a Gothic cathedral, laid out on a Greek cross plan, the intersection of which is marked by the suggestion of a spherical enclosure, an analogy for a dome. This kind of direct comparison to well-understood typologies is a tool architects can employ in order to make an unusual space less foreign and more understandable as we traverse through it. On the shore, we find some sort of Gothic structure, either a castle or a noble person's house, painted a vibrant turquoise. This re-inhabitation of a natural space amidst a Gothic ruin reminds me of the 18th century picturesque movement, which called for architecture to be more intertwined with the natural world and played a huge role in the birth of landscape architecture as a discipline. A small medieval town rests on a small bay nearby, situated around a small piazza. This is an incredibly typical layout, but upon further inspection, we find this town to be anything but typical. Colorful structural beams and columns support the backs of these facades. We realize that this town is nothing but a show, a movie set, a tourist trap. Beyond the facade, we find the real town, more optimized for the needs and functions of everyday life. Nearby, a monolithic crescent-shaped monument teeters out over the sea, seemingly ancient, but has lost its original meaning and has been deemed by the residents to be more useful as a lookout tower. In stark juxtaposition to the medieval village, a space station hovers above an incredibly modern private island resort. Despite its opulence, this house is actually quite plain from an architectural perspective. The white paint on the walls likely helps keep the building cool on a hot summer day, and given the extravagance of this island getaway, I'm just going to assume the roof is composed of Tesla solar roof tiles.
Hey guys, I'm not architecture, but can I be in the video?
Beyond the industrial areas of the Crescent Village, we find a somewhat formal town, something you may find in the Renaissance countryside. The layout of this town is centered around a campo, which is sort of like a park. Dominating one side of this campo is likely a palazzo, clearly the most important building in the town. While this town is much more ordered than many we have seen, it still falls short of the ideal axial rectilinear. Perfectly ideal plans are actually fairly uncommon, as architecture does not exist in a vacuum and must account for external factors such as landscape or other buildings. This town also takes advantage of the natural topography as a defensive structure, tunneling through a hill to create an imposing front gate. A lighthouse is perched atop the rocks. But it's not the only structure here. Particularly of interest is a greenhouse, which appears to rise out of the sea. This could be a symbolic gesture by the architect to show that these plants can only grow with the help of the water. Or the reason for this shape could be something much more functional. Looming in the distance, a dark presence. These black Victorian-style buildings are imposing, particularly thanks to their roof spires or finials, which are an element borrowed from Gothic architecture. Victorian architecture often has a haunting presence, especially thanks to the rise of spiritualism in the 19th century, and the overall grim vibe of the time encapsulated in the works of authors such as Charles Dickens and Edgar Allan Poe. An axis extended from the palazzo we discussed before meets these structures, but from this side it is raised up on piers, providing a much colder and more impersonal facade. That's it, we made it through everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please be sure to leave a like if you— wait, there's more? A valley surrounded on all sides either by natural mountains or man-made industry acts as a sort of cultural hub, bridging the gap between drastically different civilizations, each with their own set of ideals and values. We can see a very regimented street grid being steamrolled by massive and fantastical contraptions, making way for some kind of future megastructure. These machines appear to be buildings themselves with steeply pitched roofs, complete with gables and dormers, giving us the impression of a village on wheels. But what we can see here today is not a finished product, but an elaborate construction site, chugging along and bulldozing everything in its path. We can follow to find a railroad tunnel leading from nowhere to somewhere, terminating in the common space created in the center of the valley below. Above, we see towers capped with domes, something that could have been taken straight from the planet Naboo in the Star Wars galaxy, which itself was inspired by many Eastern styles of architecture dating back to the Byzantine Empire. This building rises so dramatically that it has to be chained down in order to contain its monumental ancient architecture from a civilization long gone yet still so alive. Mountaintop, now inhabited by vernacular structure precariously located on the cliff so that the residents can still care for and maintain these ancient structures, which clearly have commemorative values often ascribed to that which we place in the center of public spaces. And in this space, there appears to be some kind of structure, one which began as a vernacular condition, due to its prominent centralized location and collaborative nature, unintentionally became imbued with some kind of significance through collective understanding leads us to recognize some buildings without much thought. This small medieval street would remind most of us of Diagon Alley, which is itself inspired by the shambles of York, the haphazard, chaotic, and illogical qualities of which lead us to believe that the only possible way that these structures could still be standing after such time is some kind of magic. But actually, that's just how buildings were built in medieval England. Was the epicenter of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th and 19th century, and many factories from this earlier period were designed as cathedrals to industry, with gardens becoming shipping centers and church spires becoming smokestacks, rising up to the heavens and towering. Over. Well, there's definitely a lot of things that I missed here. This analysis is nowhere near complete. So please continue with the good work down in the comments. What is the most interesting thing you learned, and what do you want to learn more about? Let me know. Also, if you're a fan of Hermitcraft and you want to see more survival multiplayer content, you're in luck, because I play on a server called Elsewhere, a place where things tend to get a bit more multiversal. I'll leave it at that. You can jump right in by clicking on this video here, or if you're more interested in real-world architecture or history, you're definitely going to want to watch me build this real-life building to scale in Minecraft. So yeah, there's two solid options for what to do with your next few minutes. Also, I swear to God, if you're not subscribed, I'm going to